God, thank you for everything you are, for all your strength, all your peace, all your wisdom, and the clarity you get it all across to us with. So, something I've been wanting to mention for a while now is just talking about isolation. Uh, Man, I don't even know where to start. First off, it's important to know, man, just that no single Christian anywhere is alone. At the very least, man, we got Jesus, and that's enough, that's enough, that's enough. Or however that song goes. Ah. It's really, well, it seems like that's just, it's like a wave of that kind of feeling. I hate calling it a wave because that just seems like the Christian thing to do. But I don't know what else to call it. To be honest, it seems like that's just like a spiritual epidemic. And, well, especially for people outside of Tulsa, people hooked up with the Press Center that don't live within driving distance of the Press Center so much. Which I don't know why that wouldn't be everybody that, that listens to the IctusNet stuff, at least these broadcasts. But man, I can't stress it enough. Just there, you're not alone. Talk about Jesus. We don't have a high priest who's untouched by all the same kind of crap we've had to deal with. He went through all of it and then some. So who are we to feel lonely when we got that kind of relationship there? And then, man, God, whatever's in the way of this, dude, let's just unplug that. I don't like it. There's all this talk about separation and division in the church. Gary said it months ago, and then Tim's just he's been riding that one out at church services. And talking about how the fast will go faster, the slow will go slower, the bright will get brighter, the dark will get darker, etc., implying a division. Man, it's got it's got nothing to do with coming to the four walls of the prayer center. It's easy to feel left out, especially when we hear stuff like, "Man, you guys are the diehards. You hear on Sunday morning early, or Wednesday night, Sunday night, whatever." It's easy to get caught up in that, and thinking that, and having this perception of what's really going on when it's not very accurate. Really, the biggest thing, man, it's about obedience. It's about the circumcision of the heart. You know, uh, the stuff stuff I talk to God about, and then it seems like it's Him that shows me, and I'm kind of leery about sharing it just because I don't like being wrong. But I can't get away from this, and that seems to be the next step. So, well, hope you all still love me at the end of it. You know, there's a lot of Bible thumpers that just ride the coattails of Dave and Gary and all these preachers affiliated with the prayer center, Jim Martin, whoever, just ride their coattails and then get together and talk about what God showed them through Gary's latest teaching, and whatever like that. uh, Without really getting anything much from God for themselves. They keep letting Dave and Tim and Gary be their heat shield. And then and then they draw attention to themselves during these services. That talk about persecution from the devil or attacks, spiritual attacks, and that kind of thing. That, man, this ain't the most fun thing I've ever done. That kind of shallow garbage where all we're doing is patting ourselves on the back about how hard we have it since we moved here to the Tulsa Prayer Center and whatever. That crap's gonna end. You know, Tim's service. Crap, what day was that? The 23rd, February 23rd, I believe. He had an 8:30 service, and he was saying something that I'd kind of gotten some hints at, some glimpses of, but I wasn't gonna say anything because I'd rather it come from somebody respectable. Tim talked about how there's Abraham's acting. I forget how exactly he said it because I've listened to so much other stuff since then. I listened to it and then I listened to it like 4 or 5 more times, and then I listened to one of Gary's services 4 or 5 times, and then all of a sudden I was just like, I gotta listen to Dave's series. So I've gotten like 7 of them down. Because you know how like a month ago I said it was a good thing to do? I decided to start doing it too. But Tim said, was talking about a lot of people acting as Abrahams and forerunners of what God's trying to bring about. And then there's going to be Isaacs, which are going to be the recipients of what God's trying to bring about, or working to bring about. And Tim talked about how the Abrahams will probably, a good chance most of them will be home. Home. When things start coming around. And that was something that, now it just seemed like that was something that just kind of, I kept gravitating towards, but I'm still learning how to hear God too. I'd rather hear it from Tim or Dave or Gary or somebody that's been doing it for a while. So I'm glad Tim said it. And so, man, if that means that means the Abrahams are going to be home, if that means the Daves, the Garys, the Tims, all these people that have whose umbrella of doctrine we've come under, man, they paved the way. Those people that have just been hiding behind their revelation, what are they going to do? All of a sudden, these guys, all these people that have attached themselves to the prayer-center message, the vision, the drive, the passion, the doctrine, that don't come to the four walls of the church, they're going to have a pretty intense leg up on the people that are taken for granted being in Tulsa, being at the prayer center. those feelings of isolation, man. You don't live around Tulsa, you push through those that isolation. You let it come down to just, hey, all I need is God. That's when the building process really picks up with him. Really picks up. Because then it's not about trying to look good for this group or that group or this church or these people or whoever. It's about, God, I don't even care what that person thinks of me. What do you need me to say to him? It's not about saving face. It's about being a representative for God at whatever cost to our own selves. That isolation, man, it's sometimes it's hard to find people that just share the vision and the passion and that real firm grounding in reality where it's not about stupid buzzwords and it's not about not wearing a hat at church. It's not about saying the right thing. It's about having the right heart and letting that just transform everything in your life. That's what God's about. And if we can push through that isolation, through that you know how it seems like loneliness is kind of a window looking out into what may as well just be despair, desolation, abandonment, a lot of things a lot of people don't like. That is not what it's about. Man, there's, to an extent, that kind of isolation, that kind of going through the eye of the needle, that's a good thing. Let's strip down the crap that's getting in the way, that's weighing us down. Let's get rid of that stuff. It's supposed to be just me and just God. We get to that kind of mentality, man. We're going to start finding more and more people that are just hungry for the same thing. You know, thank God for Pam and Bernard being just faithful to building this whole ecosystem, this website. Because how many of you would have heard of me if they hadn't done what God was wanting them to do, what God was putting on their plate at the time? How many of you would have heard of Greg? I mean, it's just, and then now I'm starting to find these friends all over the place. They're just Uh, you know, just just as hungry and just as real. For a long time, I was starting to wonder how many of them existed. And then I'd start whining to God about it, and then God had to take me to Elijah, and then I think what Paul said about Elijah, I meant to look it up, but I decided to take a nap this afternoon instead. Talking about the how Elijah was basically whining to God. It's like, God, they've torn down all your business here around this area. They don't like any of the prophets. They're after me now, and I'm in hiding. So, it's, who else is there? Is it just down to me? And God's like, no, no, be cool, dude. There's still 770, 7,000, seven something that haven't bowed the knee to Baal. And that, I never quite hit as far down as Elijah did. But what God said to him always, it seemed like God always took me back to that. About how there's still people beyond my narrow little field of vision that just want the same thing, and they want it. Some of these people, man, first off, right now is a good time to start bothering God about fasting. Seems like there's a whole lot of extra grace for it. And I talked before, it's you fast on your terms, man. It's about sacrifice. It's about putting your soul, your pride, your flesh, your desires in their place, making sure they know who's who and their position. You gotta know its role, you know what I'm saying? There's a there's a lot of grace for that right now. I was bothering God about how long it seems like that window is. I didn't see the end of it yet. But it's not like I'm Isaiah seeing hundreds, thousands of years into the future or anything like that. But it's a good long while. But take advantage of it. That's picking a fight with things like isolation, and it's doing it on your terms when it's a lot safer. Anyway, like-minded people. I started talking to God about fasting because it seemed like a good time was coming up. And I started talking to God about, want to do this with anybody else? Have a little support group here, an emotional safety net. So I got in touch with a few people. Some did fast with me, some didn't. And I just had a lot of fun with it. It's last time I fasted with anybody else, I was doing every other day kind of thing up in Washington. That was a good long while ago now. And we all agreed to just do 7 days and then call it good. Oh man, sometimes I hate throwing myself under the bus. So since I was one of the ones that had done this before, I took it upon myself to act as the tour guide for the group. Be like, well, day one, it's just gonna suck. Day two, you're gonna hate a lot of things, but just kind of keep pushing through. It's then I saw this one coming. I wasn't gonna eat any food, but man, I had smoothies all planned out. So I just stocked up on these drinks, and I was just sucking them down, man. Just fighting off the hunger pains and the blood sugar when it tanks when you don't have food. And so we start on a Monday, and then there's 4 or 5 of us that just kind of rotate morning shifts at work. So all five of us stay pretty tight, even though we only actually all see a handful of each other 3 or 4 days a week. And so there's this one chick that works a lot of mornings with us, and she was talking about bringing cookies on that Wednesday, 2 days. Well, that'd be the third day of this fast, and she was telling me about it on Tuesday. It's like, hey, you did you not bring cookies that day? And she's like, well, I guess. Why? I said, well, I don't want you to take it personal when I don't have any. I bet they're good. And she's like, why? You on some kind of diet? I was like, well, yeah. And I got this fat-inducing protein shake in my hand. And that was like my second one of the morning, 2 hours into my shift. And then she looks right at it, and I said, well, yeah, it's a diet. She had mercy on me, though, and then just kind of deprived everybody else. But I think I was the first one she mentioned cookies to, so it didn't get any farther than that. So anyway, I'm just sucking down these drinks. There's like 25 or 30 grams of protein in each one. You know, the second day of the fast is like the hardest one because your body is starting to crap out on you, and then your mind's starting to turn against you, and it's just anarchy. And dude, I was just sucking down those drinks. I ended up getting like 130 grams of protein that day, not to mention fat and sugar content. And then later on in the day, I'm thinking, man, that's weird. I'm not even hungry now. And then God points that out to me. I was like, huh. I guess I did kind of go off the deep end on that, didn't I? And then about day 4, God started hinting that mine wasn't just going to be a 7-day fast. And then day 5, I started accepting that it might not be a 7-day fast. And I'm not trying to brag about the length, just giving you a timeline of my misery, all right? It's not about me petting my ego. It's about you guys. It's about you knowing, well, we'll get to that. So then finally, day 5, day 6, I started spending a little more time with God, and it's like, well, crap, I guess we'll just see how long this goes, because I didn't hear anything about an end point. Every time I'd ask God about it, man, he'd just be like, well, you do it until I tell you otherwise. So then, you know, I'm checking in with these friends of mine that are doing this with me, and then they're getting all gung-ho about starting to eat on Sunday night, Monday morning. I was like, oh, that sure would be nice. And dude, I was asking God what the stipulations were for the rest of this fast, because I didn't know how long it was going to go. He was the one that changed it up on me. And, man, he took away those protein drinks, took away smoothies. I just had pretty much just milk. I was chugging 1% milk like there was no tomorrow. When it came around to we all wrapped up that first week, man, that was when I just tanked. I went downhill, dude. I was not faring well. Everything in me was revolting. So like the morning after everybody else broke their fast, I'm just talking to God at work. You know, I got my headphones in, listening to some music or Johnny Cash reading me 1 Corinthians or something, something like that. Just talking to God about the fast, and he's like, well, this is it's about that confidence in the flesh. You remember you had that about a week ago? You're gonna starve yourself till that goes away. I said, well, crap, how long is that going to take? Because it was in there. So Monday, you know, I'm just trying to just be strong. And made it through work. I was all right, you know. Then Tuesday, dude, I just shut down. And most of my days at work involve at least 2 or 3 hours in a 40-degree walk-in cooler. And that day, man, I don't know if I had it in me. So the assistant manager, the point person that morning, I was just telling her, I was like, dude, I'm just kind of, I'm not feeling so hot today. If I can just kind of do my thing room temperature, if you don't mind knocking out the stuff in the cooler, I'd really appreciate it. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, of course, she gets stuck doing something else, uh, and then people were starting to come and go, employees were. And then, so one that was about to start going checked in with the point person, and then the point person was like, well, just have Pete just finish up in the cooler, and you just do your thing out here. And I was like, oh, crap. So, just trying to be strong, and everything in me just wanted to curl up in a corner and pass out until it was all over. So I go in the cooler, man. I'm just doing my best, just throwing stuff around. Well, it was my job to put stuff, like break down pallets of merchandise. I wasn't just like just throwing a fit and throwing stuff. But I was just doing that for an hour and a half, man. I just, bleh, bleh. I walked out to where this point person was, and she's like, "You okay? You look kind of gray." I was like, "Yeah, you remember me saying I don't want to handle the cold today?" So of course I had to go back in there and finish, and I was just about that time. Man, everything in me just wanted to scream, and I just felt like I was like, does anybody else know what I'm going through? And it was terrible. It was just awful. Ah, oh. And then I get off of work that day. God's like, hey, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. I think you learned your lesson. It was basically the point he got across to me. Like he just strong-armed me into submission with that last little stretch of time, and it just sucked. Man, did it suck. So then I start coming off of it, just sort of nursing these simpler foods because of how tiny and gone my stomach was, and just asking God what that submission hold was all about. And man, something just, I don't even know. Like, have you heard Gary's messages lately? I think it was February 23rd as well. Like Tim had the 8:30 and Gary had the 10. Gary was talking about how since he had gotten back from his last trip, it was like he'd just gone into another room. And obviously mine wasn't the same room. We would have shaken hands or something, but it was just kind of like that. It was just like blinders were taken off, and uh, it's like I started seeing things different. Like, yeah, of course I'm gonna say, yeah, I want as much of God as I can get. Then I can spend 11, 12, 13 hours on a video game on my day off. And then, man, I started regrouping from this fast, and it was just, I have to have this. I'm not content with what I've gotten so far. It was like this resolve just showed up. It just exploded in my heart. Like, I can be like, well, yeah, I'll get there. Yeah, we're just taking our time. We're not going to kill ourselves and then just wonder why we get discouraged and burned out here in 2 weeks, because it's not like we've done that before, right? Now, man, I just I loaded my phone up with all of Dave's old series. Oh, I'm on like I said earlier, I think I'm on like my seventh one. I just listen to as much of it as I can at work until I gotta actually start communicating with other people. And then I'll come home and I'll just have it on play, just sit there and burn through solitaire games, pray in tongues. It's just absorb it. It's just message after message after message. And all Carrie was catching was just hearing Dave's voice kind of in and out because she had grown up stuff to do. And then she's like, "How many times are you gonna listen to that message?" I was like, "Well, this is like the eighth different message. I'm not just listening to that same one on repeat. That'd be awful." Well, yeah, I guess it wouldn't be awful, but I'd need a break. Something just changed, and I can listen to those series, man. Dave was talking about how it was 1993. And then you hear all those super Christians in the background just shouting Dave down, "Amen, preach it," whatever. Don't see many of them around the church anymore. We got different ones. I'm not saying, maybe, obviously some of them have moved on because God needed them. He was taking them where they needed to be. This was a temporary thing. Others were just like, peace, I don't like this. Separation, right? It's not it's not wrong to feel alone, but what are you going to do with it? What are you going to let that feeling drive you towards? Man, I was telling some friends that it's not like I didn't have people around here. If I needed something from them, dude, they would have been all over helping me out. But it's like I had church friends over here that I couldn't be myself around because they weren't themselves, because they didn't like themselves, because they couldn't open up around other church people because they were busy trying to get accepted by people in the church instead of just looking at what God wants them to become. And then I got people at work that just don't like church, don't like God, leave that religion crap away. And then some of them, I got to be so close with those burnouts that I'd be going through something and they'd know it because this was all new to me then, and I knew I had the rapport with them. I could just say, "Hey, can you pray for me?" And I always knew when they did and when they didn't. And it wasn't something with them. It wasn't something that we dwelled on. I brought it up when I was just low, 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 low. And then I started learning how to bounce back. And then we just kind of carried on with how our relationship usually was. I didn't like asking for church people to pray for me. Because, they're just usually full of crap about it. "Yes, I'll pray for you, brother." And then nothing. There was two times I really just distinctly remember like it was just last week. One time I was out of town, some stuff was going down, and I was just pretty pretty alone. I just said, "God, I got nobody around here to ask. Just, can you just have somebody pray for me? Sure enough, somebody somebody heard God on that one. I don't even think it was 5 minutes later. Uh, well, I'm expecting that, but they're gonna have to wait. If you heard the doorbell, man, just a couple minutes later, I just started feeling this peace just cover me. Because somebody heard God, somebody was faithful to just set aside even just a few minutes, and just pray for me. Another time, felt like I hit rock bottom, and I was just show up at church, man. I just pace, pray, just doing the best I could because I didn't know what else to do. And then it's like something broke. God told me that, well, I'm pretty sure it was God. I never heard back. But it's like God showed me that Tim Stemple had been praying for me for a while. And he was just sitting in his chair minding his own business. So I just walk over to him, and he's sitting down. So I just kind of crouch down. It's like, hey, thank you for praying for me. And then if you've ever seen Tim, he's just got the most phenomenal poker face I have ever seen. He just kind of looked over and smirked. And I just got up and walked off, kept on praying. He never said it was God, never said it wasn't God, never said he was praying for me. I just ran with it. There's, it's about, it's about your heart with God. Don't worry about what's going on at the prayer center. Well, focus on what the speakers are saying because they're mature enough to transcend the clique mentality. It's about plugging into God for your own self anyway. And the voices of the prayer center, man, they're a good one to get behind. You think you hear God about something, and then all of a sudden, a week or two later, you hear it from the pulpit, and you're like, oh, huh, cool. Kind of like how Gary's been in 1 Corinthians. That's the book I've been in for a while too. But don't focus on feeling alone. It's, man, that isolation, that stripping of ourselves, that part is necessary. But the devil, he is sure enough going to come along and try and pervert it and make it seem like you're just a million miles off course and nobody likes you. You smell funny and you're stupid. Yeah, we have all had to deal with that. But it's about pushing through that. You just keep praying, man. You just keep doing your best to keep that pure heart, that drive, that passion for God, that innocence, that humility. There is a freedom on the other side of that. Don't worry about how alone you feel right now. God's bringing like-minded people together. I promise. There's different people, different umbrellas of just, like, those big conferences where, well, I was at this youth conference, and it was for just like all over the Northwest U.S., and then different regions were color-coded. Like if you're from this region, and then they'd have like a purple banner or something, and then if you had a purple whatever when you registered, then that's where you went. That kind of thing. That's what I mean by umbrella. Like it's just a meeting place. we're going to start seeing more and more people with the same vision, the same drive for God, and a lot of us the same mentality, same perspective. And that's where the encouragement's going to be. That fellowship doesn't have to happen in the four walls. Oh, there goes the technicians I had a date with it, 11 minutes ago. Oh well. It's getting to be less and less about a physical location and more about just staying in touch. You know how Paul told the First Corinthians that he was with them in spirit? It's going to be that kind of thing, not astral projection or whatever that crap is. Dude, we're talking about godly stuff, not stupid stuff, not pushing ourselves for signs of supernatural. We're pushing towards God. All that stuff's just supposed to be a byproduct of a relationship with God. But that, yeah, don't worry about feeling alone. It's cool. There's plenty of people on the other side. But that's definitely one speed bump that deters a lot of people because of all the negative, dark emotions it can invoke. And it is hard, but that's something that really, really helps define a person's relationship with God. Because if it doesn't get down to bare bones, you and God, man, it's a matter of time till you start looking at this person and, well, how can I talk to them? And instead of, what's God need me to say to them? It's important to get stripped of wanting respect from other people more than God, or as much as God. It's easy to lie and fool ourselves into thinking that we don't want it. And I know especially for me that's the case. And that's the biggest reason I just don't promote myself. I don't want to be like, well, yes, come listen to me, yes. No. So what if people do that? That's fine. But, man, if you like what you hear or see, if it's doing you some good, maybe it'll do somebody else some good. That's what I want, man. I don't want to build myself up. I would rather err on the side of caution than anything else. But it's not ungodly to feel isolated, to feel alone, to question that relationship with God. So what if you question it, man? What are you going to do to find the answer? To find God's answer? Lots of people have found the wrong answer. Just don't give up. There's a lot of stuff on the other side of that. A lot of stuff. So, yeah. I think that's all I got now. As far as announcements, I got doing one next week because in 2 weeks my mom's going to be in town. And if I only get a week or two out of the year to be a mama's boy, you better believe I'm going to jump all over it. So, next week and then maybe 2 weeks after that. That one we'll have to play by ear. But it'll come either way. So, yeah, that's all I got. Keep on keeping on. Love you guys. Peace.